like the same as like a 14er. There's like this straight up stairs, and that was the second hike I ever did, and that was a really bad choice. But because I looked at it and said, "Oh, view over Boulder, it looks really cool. It's not even 3 miles. I can easily do that." And then I got out there, and it was like straight up the entire way. So
it's been kind of neat reading about your first hikes, because that first hike, you're so geared up, you're geeked up, you're ready to get out there, and you forget gloves on a 14-degree day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was lucky my wife had some in the glove box. Literally, the only time I've ever actually taken gloves out of a glove box in a car. She had one for like, if like a car broke down and she just changed a tire, she had like some little ones in there. And I was so glad I had them because my fingers would have been freezing off. The other thing I'd forgotten that one is my Camelback froze on me. Like as I was hiking, the hose for the water completely froze up on me. And then I was talking to someone later and they told me the blowback, and and really cold days, after you're done drinking, you blow the water back into your Camelback so it's not sitting in the hose and it won't freeze. And that was a great hint, but I did not know that the first day going out. So about halfway through, I didn't have any water for the second half of the hike. I just had ice.
That's something that me and my wife and all of my outdoor buddies, we really got big into making lists.
Mm-hmm.
We used to take an Upper Peninsula trip every year, either fishing or hunting.
Yeah.
And even though we had done it 6 or 7 times, we made a mandatory kind of guy meeting where we'd each get a list of stuff we needed to bring.
Mm-hmm.
We'd talk about all the technicalities, all the ins and outs. That way, whenever the trip time came, everybody was on the same page.
Yep.
And it made those trips seamless.
And I think because I do it often enough and I'm not doing crazy different ecoscapes, now that I have like a good hiking bag, I think I've got my like set of stuff, so it's like that's a lot easier because like I know that those things are going to be in there, and yeah, I'll take out like I'll pick the right jacket for the day, but like I know I've got I already have like some basic snacks in there. I've already got all the little the basic gear I've got with me now. Well, the first couple hikes it was like, what random stuff do I have to bring with me? And I just walked outside and hoped that would be okay, And now I tend to plan a lot more with my stuff that I have, and I'm going on longer hikes too. When you're doing a 2-mile hike right outside the city of Boulder, it's not as big a deal. But when you start doing 10 miles in Rocky Mountain National Park, then you need to make sure you have different stuff with you.
So for that 10-mile hike scenario, what does your standard pack look like? What do you got in there?
Okay, I got to think off the top of it. So I've got the actual pack itself. I use trekking poles. They're the best thing on the planet. It makes you look super dorky, but I don't care. I've had bad knees for a long time from college, playing ultimate frisbee and all that kind of stuff. I used to play competitively and injure my knees and never really got it fixed. So the trekking poles help, especially on the downhill. So I've got my trekking poles. I made sure I bought a bag that I could like strap the poles to, so when I don't need them, I can put them away. Obviously water. I bring a small bottle of Gatorade as well, because sometimes they just need the like electrolyte boost kind of thing. I've got granola bars and fruit snacks and some hard candy always with me. Some like Nutri-Grain bars or things like that. I carry a light pair of gloves, like a small thin pair of gloves all the time. I have a basic plastic poncho, a first aid kit, life straw, so like a little water filtration thing, because they're light and you can just throw them in your pack. And then it depends on whether I know it's going to be snowy or not. I've got a set of Kahula micro spikes that I've got now, and I think that's the majority of things that would be there. And then depending on the weather, I bring a windbreaker or a fleece, because layers are super important in Colorado. I sometimes change the jacket I have on like 4 times within a hike, because it'll get warm because the sun's out and you hit an area with no trees, or the wind will come across, or the clouds will roll in. So having lots of different options for that is absolutely worth the wait when you're carrying around. So that's the basics, I'd say.
When we talk to my sister-in-law back in Kentucky, we'll tell her about all the wild weather swings, and she tells us it's like we live on the dark side of the moon.
Every 10 minutes it can change.
Yeah. And you pretty much stick to trails, so you don't take a GPS or anything with you, do you?
I bring my phone. My phone has pretty darn good GPS in it, and I use the All Trails app. The internet part doesn't go, but in All Trails you can download like map overlays, so the GPS will still know where I'm at, and if I download the map overlay, it'll coordinate it. Even if I don't have internet, it'll still track my location and tell me if I'm going off trail or not. The premium version of All Trails, I'm not trying to plug them, it just happens to be what I use, has a really good Lifeline aspect to it. You can record your hikes, which I do just so I can like, track my miles. But it also, when you do that, you can click on a button and it'll give you contacts. So like, my wife is on there, and it'll send her text message updates during my hike. Like whenever I get internet, so like, and then I can like give an update like, hey, this hike is harder than I thought. It's going to take a little longer, or hey, things are going good, or I'm in trouble. I can send her notes like that. And then when I'm done with the hike, I can tell her too. So that way I hike with people. Sometimes I hike alone sometimes. And I don't care if it's a 2-mile hike or a 10-mile hike in the middle of nowhere. Always, always, always tell somebody where you're going and when you expect to be back. That's the most important thing of anything that I can tell anybody. And so this lifeline that's built into the app is really useful for that.
And I think you mentioned it in one of your blog posts that you never really felt unsafe on a hike, but you stress the importance of that. I know with me being a hunter, I don't always stick to trails.
Mm-hmm.
So my big worry now is mountain lions.
Mm-hmm.
I know they scare the bejesus out of me.
Yeah. And those are the ones that if you see them, they've been watching you for 15 minutes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what freaks me out a little bit. So even though, yes, you're in relative safety because you're on a trail, you never know what's going to be popping out around a corner.
Yeah.
So the lifeline thing is pretty important.
It is. Like I say, just if nothing else, like with your hunting, like at least give people a general area you're going and when you're planning on coming back. I'm going to be in this area and I'm going to be back, at 8:00 at night. And that way, if it becomes 4:00 in the morning, it's like, okay, something's wrong.
And I guess my all trails equivalent is on X. That's what I use.
Yep. Okay.
And the same principle. You can download maps, share maps. That way people know where you're at.
Mm-hmm. Hunting, you can also then create waypoints for like good areas of hunting that you found. So 2 years later, you can remember that good spot you found.
Yeah, I know. I thought I found a good spot. I was turkey hunting and I heard a lot of turkeys, but I didn't see any. So that'll be last.
One of my hikes, I came across about 75 turkey right in the middle of my trail.
Well, let me know where that's at, and I'll be more than happy to go thin that out a little bit.
I don't think you can in that location. I think that's why there's so many there.
Well, that's a good point.
But it's still pretty cool. Yeah.
It's awesome. I love the wildlife around here.
Yeah.
I know we've got to see some bighorn sheep, mule deer, elk. I mean, it blows me away.
Oh yeah.
Do you prefer to hike alone or with company, or does it matter?
I like to hike with anybody who actually wants to be there. My only qualification when people ask if they can come hiking with me is yes, but you have to want to be there. I don't care if you are slow. I don't care if you're out of shape. I don't care, if you've never been on a hike before. I will go as slow as you want, but just don't complain about being there. Don't be like, why did I come out hiking? And so I kind of tell people that, like I've had people like, hey, can I come hike? Absolutely, you can. Now there are a couple hikes every once in a while I'll not tell anybody what I'm going and just kind of go do it. I'll tell my wife, hey, I'm going on a hike tomorrow morning, but because part of it is just needing my own time. I think, with me having a business and, obviously I love my wife and daughter dearly, but we're around each other 24/7. We work together, we're home together, we do everything. So having a little alone time is nice, and being in customer service and working with all the schools and kids, I always have to be on. I always have to be Mr. Business Owner, and, getting out there by myself is a nice respite from that.
Yeah, I know it's always. I've always taken my alone time for granted.
Mm-hmm.
When I was back in Ohio, having a 25-minute drive to work in my car by myself every day was just enough time for me to just kind of, put that guard down a little bit, get out of salesperson mode and into Zach mode, just normal, laid back. And since we've moved, things have been chaotic, COVID. I find myself every few weeks going, okay, I've got to get away for just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize how important it was to have that just a little bit of downtime for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, one of the hardest things to do in the world is to tell the people you love that you love them so much that you need to be away from them a little bit. The expectation I think in modern world is that if you love somebody, that means you want to be around them all the time. And you do, when I'm out hiking, I think about my family and love them very much. But at the same time, we all as humans, I think, need reset time. We need just time to not be near anything. And like, turning off my phone and turning off, any notifications for any social media, and just going for a walk with me and whatever song is stuck in my head is, worthwhile,
Yeah. The early hikes.
Mhm.
What lessons kind of stuck with you throughout the rest of your adventures? I mean, what did you learn that was super important?
I'd say right off the bat, like look at the weather, know what it's going to be, and just have the right stuff. Where you mentioned me forgetting the gloves, that was definitely something going that way. So kind of look at the weather. Bring more water and snacks than you think you need. Like there's nothing wrong with having a little extra water. When I did South Bear Peak, which is the toughest hike I've done, it goes up Shadow Canyon on the south side of Boulder. I thought like distance, once again, it was one of those like distance wise, I knew I could do it. But it was the hardest hike I've done. And it took me twice as long as I thought it was going to be. And I drank every ounce of like 3 liters of water, and I've never gone through that much. And so, bring more water and food than you think you need. That's probably the biggest thing I would say. Bring snacks. Like there's nothing wrong with sitting down and taking a snack. Yeah, I think that's kind of probably the biggest thing. And then just like make sure you know the weather and be prepared for the differences there. Wear good socks too. Like you can have good shoes, but invest in some good socks also.
Yeah, I've realized that. I recently I got some really good merino wool socks,
Mm-hmm.
and they're a nice thin sock. But the difference between those and my normal, just everyday socks, big difference. You can tell.
Oh, it's a huge difference. Yeah, good socks.
And the climate moving from Ohio to here has really thrown me for a loop. I forget sometimes how hot it can get,
Mm-hmm.
because even if you're in the shade, you're only there temporarily, and you're going to pop back out in the sun sooner or later.
Yeah.
And you get back to the truck and you're like, man, I am thirsty, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't feel like drenched in sweat like you would if you were in Southern Ohio, because the humidity's 100%.
Oh, absolutely. The thin air up here, and me coming from Arizona, also, I've gotten worse sunburns here in Colorado than I ever got in the desert in Arizona, because the air is just so thin. Like you don't have to be in the sun very long for it to start getting to you. So sunscreen, if you can, or cover up. Wear something to cover up your skin, kind of thing. But yeah, and even if you don't get sunburned, it sucks the energy out of you. Like you get hit with, and that's I think also why I go hiking so early in the morning too. Like I want to get on my hike and back down before that sun gets too high in the sky, because even if it's not hot out, the sun will still suck the energy out of you.
And then on top of that, not only is the climate crazy, but the terrain is crazy, because you can just drive. Like I live in Loveland,
Mm-hmm.
and it's flat right here where I'm at. But if I drive 30 minutes west, it's nothing but mountains.
Yeah, yeah.
That was really hard to get used to.
It's kind of crazy because like I started going, you know what? Okay, I'm just going to start doing like the flat irons near Boulder because they're right there. And like even with the 20 or so hikes I've got here, I've still got a ton to do. I'm just like working my way slowly, kind of like out in the mountain, further and further out. But like I say, I mean, even if you're on the flatter areas along the Front Range, it's only a 20-minute drive, and you're like straight up in like going up the side of a mountain kind of thing. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite hike, one that you've done so far?
Probably 2 of them. One of them would be pretty close to you. Also, it's just outside of Lyons. It's called Heil Valley Ranch.
I love that place.
And yeah, the is it the Wapiti Trail, and then there's a loop at the top. It's what's they call a lasso or a lollipop trail. So you kind of go out, and then there's a loop at the top, and you come back down. And that was where I actually saw those the turkeys. And I think that might be why it was one of my favorite hikes, because I saw fox on that hike, I saw turkey, and I saw deer. And I just like saw all this wildlife too. It was kind of like still winter time, so it was cool, but there wasn't like all the snow on the ground. And that trail is like one of the best like built and maintained trails I've ever seen. It's like you're walking on a cobblestone like porch for a bunch of like whatever. Boulder Valley's done a great job on that trail. That one, and then the one we did in Rocky Mountain National Park, which is no surprise. The Lock Valley and Timberline Falls Trail. And that was when I brought my mother-in-law and my wife and my daughter, and I was really proud of my daughter. She did, like I say, it ended up being 8.4 miles at starting elevation of 10,000 feet and went up to about 12,000 foot. And she never complained once the entire time. And it was awesome. We got to like trek over some snow, and I got to use my